Excellencies, distinguished delegates, and esteemed speakers and participants, good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are. So today, we are here for a high energy webinar to discuss the innovations and startups for circular economy through sustainable lifestyles. And this webinar is being organized under the EU-funded Switch Asia program that aims to mainstream sustainable consumption and production in Asia and Pacific. And under the Switch Asia program, EU has three components. One is the grants, second is the SCP facility, and the third one, which is in partnership with UNEP, is the regional policy advocacy, and that's where we are here. And as we look at the mainstreaming sustainable consumption and production, or more importantly, the SDG 12, to achieve many international, national obligations and goals, including the climate change, biodiversity, plastic pollution, food waste, carbon neutrality, and so on. It's the many governments and the private sector and the consumers, they are looking for better solutions that they, on the one hand, they improve their quality of life, they get a more safer environments, including transportation, food, and so on, and also help in achieving the global goals, national goals on environment and sustainable development. So when we look on the role of the innovations and startups for this objective to have a circular economy in focus, because circular economy is designed to reduce the impact of the natural resources required for the socioeconomic growth, and also to reduce the wastage and pollution. So basically to recirculate the resources within the system for the longer time to achieve same objectives and quality of life. So for this circular economy, the major roots which we are now experiencing is support the shared values. You have a shared transport, you have a shared offices, shared spaces, and so on. And then also the green value chains. Because to reduce the impact of the natural resources and reduce the wastage, we are looking on the recycling and recovery to have a better green and value chains for the products and services. Then we are also looking on the eco designs, like different types of materials which are easy to recycle or easy to manage or longevity, easy to repair, and so on. And also the types of the products which can live for longer or which can easily go back into the recycling and recovery. Then also looking as the product as a service. So instead of selling the bulbs, selling the lights, for example, selling the cars, selling the transport, for example. So as a service. So then you have a better inventory, better control of the waste, and you produce the products which live longer, because you are not selling the product, but you're selling the service. And then also the recycling and recovery, which is now getting the shape that how we increase the recycling potential. What can we do? What policies, what technologies, what eco-design upstream, what consumer behavior, sorting, and so on can help to achieve the higher recycling and recovery potential. So for all this, when we look on the new innovations, who's doing the innovations? Okay, big companies, like they have their R&D, but then those R&D also very conventional. So the young researchers, young entrepreneurs, they are coming up very much in this field to come with the new innovations and to test those innovations through their startups. And those startups are being now supported by different financing mechanisms, venture capital, crowdfunding, and so on, fintech. So when we're looking on this new scenarios of startups and innovations, and also linking this with the rise of the social enterprise, we remember Dr. Yunus and all this Grameen Bank, that we are going to make a change locally, to act locally, to bring the things impact-wise at global level. So these startups are basically focusing initially at the local level, but then they scale up as the global level and so on. And few of the important things which we have learned based on our 2 rounds of the startups we have been supporting, and also based on the partnerships we are working, that timing is very, very important. And also the teams are very important. That how we have the timing for introducing new products and services, and what team we have. And that's where I was listening to Bill Gates last night, and he mentioned that Microsoft, when it started, it was not much about the money because it was a software, but they put efforts like weekends and everything to bring the new innovations and all this into that. Then I also listened to the Dr. Yunus, and he was mentioning the social enterprise, like starting solving the local problem first, the problem in your house. So if you have a startup that brings only your family together for the sustainable lifestyle, then bringing the neighborhoods, then bringing your city, and then you get to the country level and beyond the country and so on. So that's how the things are happening. And we are now going to listen to different startups. We are going to listen to the different organizers of the startups, like the health program. And we are also going to listen to the different experts who have invested their whole lives in this circular economy, SCP, and so on. So without further ado, let me invite our first distinguished speaker, Ms. Nelly. And she will be talking about the Health Enterprise Startup Award. And I was pleasantly surprised that they have also moved to the environmental startups like 2020. So without further ado, let me invite Nelly, and Nelly can also introduce more about herself, her organization, but also to bring inspiration that how the new startups, our youth can look into that. Floor is yours, Nelly.
Thank you so much. Hi, everyone. Just want to make sure my mic works. Can you hear me? Yes? Okay, perfect. Hello, everyone. My apologies for the lighting. I am based in Mexico City. I'm originally Mexican, and it's 1 a.m. here. So it's really dark. So my apologies if you can see me really well. I'm going to talk about really 3 big things. One, I'm going to give you an introduction about the whole prize, just as it was mentioned. Thank you so much for the invitation once again. I'm super honored and happy to be with everyone today. 2, I'm going to talk about the importance of why youth have to be involved in changing the world through business and launching startups today. And 3rd, I'm going to talk a little bit about what's basically on the screen, like if I have a startup, like what are the financial mechanisms, like how can I get funding? And 2, what would be the different policies in my country that would allow me to, have a better journey when launching my startup. So back to the beginning, I'm gonna do my best to keep this as short as I can, no more than 10 minutes. But my name is Nelly Andrade. I'm originally Mexican. I live in Mexico City, and I have the enormous enormous privilege of working at the Whole Prize. The Whole Prize is a community of change makers that believe that you have the power to change the world. When I say you, I mean any young person from around the world, being a student or not, launching a startup or not. We believe that absolutely everyone have the creativity, the ideas, and the time to create bold startups that can make for-profit enterprises to change the world. Now, every year we launch a challenge that gives out $1 million to the startup that brings the most innovative solution to the table. And we also launch a bunch of activities along the year between accelerators, regional summits, festivals, demo days, parties, networking events, and honestly, it's lots of fun. I joined the Whole Prize more or less 8 years ago when I was still in university. I was able to compete as a student. I was able to become an organizer as a campus director in my university. And through the process, for me, it was clear that there was no way that I could imagine myself in a career that wasn't through, the entrepreneurship arena and making an impact. For me, it completely transformed the way I saw social problems. And across my journey in the whole prize, I've seen, I think, hundreds of thousands of young people, one, transform their current life into a better, to a better position, or get amazing jobs that they would never have had it before, or launching startups that are now valued at millions of dollars. Just to keep it short, at the whole prize, we're also, we work directly with the United Nations. We host our finals at the UN every year, and we're generously funded by the Holt family, which is the way that, this is the way that we're able to, make everything happen and give out the $1 million every year. Just to keep it also short, the whole prize, for those that haven't heard it before, has been named as the Nobel Prize for the students by different media worldwide, and is one of the 10 most innovative startups in the world. So that's a little bit of the whole prize. Our main goal is, again, for you as a student to discover how you can change the world through business. And now, something that I wanted to make sure that I mentioned before talking a little bit further is that we are living, this year in particular completely changed the way that students and people live their lives. But more than that, we're living in a moment where the biggest transfer of wealth will happen between one generation and another. What does this mean really is that you, as a student watching this live session right now, maybe you're not a fund manager yet. Maybe you're not the director of a company yet. Perhaps in the next 5 to 10 years you will, but even if you're not, you will have in your hands the power to make a decision of where to invest your money, what products to buy, and what brands to keep alive in the next 5 to 10 to 20 years in the future. This gives our generation a power that has never been seen before. My apologies again for my English. It's not my first language, so sometimes I forget some words. And in that, between that logic, it makes it super important that we make sure that everyone in our generation understands what this power means and how the way finance and investment will start changing and shifting in the next 5 to 10 to 15 years. At the whole prize, we believe that the future of business is impact, and that in the next decade or so, all of the businesses, and even when we talk about investment and when we talk about funding, will be directed into companies that are either bringing social change, just as we were hearing at the beginning, maybe with the circular economy, or something with the environment, or like this year at the whole prize with our challenge around food. Talking a little bit again about the whole prize, every year, as I said, we launch a challenge and we give $1 million to the best startup that is tackling that challenge. Some years we've had water, energy, housing, poverty, and many other challenges. But this year in particular, I'm super excited because the challenge is food for good. What does this mean? We're asking students to come up with innovative ideas that make food and show us how you can change the world and use food as a vehicle for change, mobilize economies, disrupt supply chains, and rethink the way everything around food is done: distribution, import, waste, delivery, and all of the process around food, so that we can really transform the lives of 10 million people in the next 10 years. So that being said, and moving into the next topics, and I see some comments here in the chat box. Please let me know if there's questions at the end, and I'll be very happy to start answering them. But moving into the next specific topic, which is in particular on financing mechanisms and innovative policies. What happens if I want to launch a startup? I'm going to make an example from my country. Mexico is a developing country still. So we had 2 really good examples a couple of years ago. if a country, let's say like Mexico, wants to be competitive, we need to, one, develop technology, two, make sure that the technology is also super innovative, and three, we launch a lot of startups. Now, how do we make that happen? You know, there are different incentives that have to happen in the way. A lot of programs like the whole prize have to come into the country and start, you know, putting a spark into the students, into the population, and helping everyone get motivated basically to start launching startups. But is that easy? Is that not easy? It depends a little bit, one, on the policies, and two, on the financial mechanisms. So how do we make this happen? I put some notes here just to make sure that I didn't forget. One is that we need the proper incentives and the proper governance from the institutions to make it happen. What does this mean? This means like agreements and the resources, or managing the resources around the way the decisions are made, are super important to make sure that, you know, the right innovations are starting to come into place. Two, policy instruments. That means, how do we get new knowledge and new innovations into the market? This is super important because the policy instruments are the ones that will allow a country or big organizations to either make it less expensive to start creating innovations, or to start creating innovations and new knowledge through public institutions. In Mexico, we used to have, because it's not available anymore, an institution called CONACYT, and they would do one, funding for like strong scientific projects, two, funding so that young students, if you were under 32 years old, you could travel to do your master's in specific areas that were competitive, like green energy or green MBAs, or, you know, like alternative energy solutions or water. So specific topics where we wanted to have more innovations and more startups. And you know, it worked really, really well. We started having a huge number of engineers going overseas and coming back and starting building startups. And the third one, in which they also helped, is that if you launched a startup that was a completely new technology on the topics that were super important for the country, you would get, let's say, like a tax credit. So it would be very, very, very attractive for you to be a young person studying overseas to get the, you know, to get more knowledge and then coming back to launch a startup. Now, third thing important to mention is specifically on developing countries. Why? Because that's my personal experience, is that, you know, when talking about innovation and technology, it's not only about, you know, making a country more competitive or building new stuff into the country, but very important to build on, you know, the local capacities that we have in country. And that's really, really important, because that's also what we do at the whole prize. When we grow our program, and one of our biggest programs is called the on-campus program, where we go and select one student leader from a university, and that specific leader is in charge of, you know, building a whole movement in your university. In AIT, we have had an amazing experience with the local on-campus program. But what happens, we deploy a whole training on leadership, on communication skills, and, you know, the local people on the ground are the ones really making the show work. And that's how it works in 1 to 121 countries where we work. So that would be the third important thing when talking about policy intervention and green innovations. And just not to make it super, super long, I just want to close saying, like, again, we're living in a historic moment in time. At the whole prize, we believe that everyone has a say in how to change the world, and that we are here to listen to everyone. So if you want to, you know, change the world, if you want to have fun, if you want to discover the world of entrepreneurship and innovation, I promise the whole prize has its doors open, and it's the place for you to participate. We have our slogan, leading a generation to change the world, and that is happening today and every day during the year. Our applications are still open. If you want to participate in the Food for Good Challenge, you just have to go to wholeprice.org and apply, and it's only available for the next 2 to 3 days. Our applications are closing soon, if I'm not mistaken, by the 18th of December. So it's still a good time for you to participate. And other than that, we have a bunch of educational resources. If you're launching a startup, and again, maybe you don't know if in your country do you have the financial mechanisms for you to, launch your startup, trust me, at the Whole Price, we have 1,000 resources available for you to discover how to launch your startup, even with zero budget at the beginning. So that's it from my side. Thank you so much for the invitation. I'm gonna leave the website information here, which is just wholeprice.org, and my personal contact too, in case anybody wants to reach out to me directly. And I'm gonna hand it off back to you. I think you're still in mute. I can't hear. I can't hear any more audio.
Are you with us till the end?
There.
Okay, thank you. So I just want to confirm for the Q&A, because please put your questions in the chat, so we will have a Q&A at the end. And so now with Nelly, you can understand how timing is important. It's 1 a.m. in Mexico. She's with us announcing the $1 million jackpot. And so that is important, that the next 2 days, like 18 December, you have a chance to get hold of the application for the Health Prize. And they are based in Cambridge in Health Business School, and she is in Mexico. We are in Bangkok. So you can see this global phenomena, how it's working. So timing is very, very important. And I believe the timing 18 December is related with the Cambridge, or because Asia is a little bit ahead of time. So anyway, so thank you very much, Nelly. And let me now move to our mentor. I don't think Dr. Arab Hubla needs any introduction. That's only introduction for me is my mentor, and he taught me SCP in UNEP. Thank you. Arab, over to you.
SCP innovation and small and medium enterprises. That's where I want to focus my brief presentation. As I said, sustainable consumption and production for me is at the basics of all those strategies that we have been developing for the last 30 years. Would it be on sustainable development, circular economy, green economy, and name them low carbon economy? If you look at them from in detail, you will see from the ones prepared 30 years ago to the ones prepared nowadays, between 80 and 90% of the chapters and the words are almost the same. We're talking about the same thing simply because we have not been able to implement properly the sustainable development strategy. Because if we had them at that time, we don't need a green economy strategy, because it would have embedded greening the supply chain. So they are all very common, but they were prepared in differentiated manner. And where we failed is what I call the missing link, which is the sustainable consumption and production. How can we effectively deliver those strategies without properly looking at our consumption patterns and production process? And if we failed in doing that, because even though we have planned those strategies over 20, 30 years, we did not look properly for what we call a transition period. A transition period need to factor in, we need to think ahead properly. And for that, we need to have steps and stages in implementing those strategies, which unfortunately with a new government or a new UN agencies, we do the things again 4 or 5 years ago, and we rename them differently, and we forget of what the step that has been done. So this transition period that need to be factored in with all the resources is not giving due attention. And this influenced properly the speed and the transition. Creation of knowledge, because any new strategy, the period changes. Necessity for innovation, but innovation needs some kind of incentives. Innovation that goes throughout the design of the products to the behavior of the consumer. And of course, looking at the business model that are absolutely essential in order to see how we can move further in order to deliver properly this. So we are here to talk about the importance of eco-innovation. But innovation, eco-innovation, is very interesting per se, and is an absolute necessity. But it has to be understood not just as an edge innovation. It has to be systemic. If it doesn't encompass the whole supply chain for greening it, if it doesn't look at the system with all its components and the life cycle, innovation will be at the edge. We have done something, but it will not have the impact we expect because we did not consider the whole system and the supply chain. And also, when we consider the system, we will look at the different stakeholders. When I talk about stakeholders, old people like me, young people like you, most of you are connected, large companies, but also, if not mainly, micro and small and medium enterprises, because at that level, innovation is different than what is at level of big companies. And it is at that level where we deliver on the ground and we can make a change. Now, we went on eco-innovation in the beginning, mainly by looking at caring about scarcity of resources. Even though we have plenty of resources, but depending where you are, we started with that, oh, we might not get enough resources, so let us innovate to see how to move further. Then we understand much more the need for efficiency, looking at the proper business case by improving resource efficiency. At the end of the day, you save resources and you save money for yourself, and you can make good business out of that. And innovation, the beauty of innovation, can enable a higher resource efficiency, which means save more resources and make more benefits and be the leader in a market when you move on those issues. The problem is if you don't consider proper a system approach, you have an issue of priority. Which sector are you going to focus on in order to get the right multiplier effect? And this brings you again to the transition period in order to enable a transition with the different stakeholders and see how you can move further. Now, when it comes to the priorities, there are plenty of issues ahead of us. Are we going to focus on lifestyles, as Mushtaq referred to in the beginning? Or within lifestyles, are we focusing on the behavioral chain? Because lifestyle is much larger. Or should we just go through plastics and waste or green building and so on? The interest here is that take any one of those sectors or those focus areas, they just have to be considered as an entry point to the system. So from any of those elements that you see here around the circle, each one of them could be a very good entry point depending on the context where you are, but they have to bring you to the others. Meaning, if you work on green public procurement, you have to see how this influences the green building, how this looks at the waste and cities, how this can influence the resilient cities. If you look at waste and plastics, you touch with your lifestyle and behavioral change. It's go to the tourism sector, how the procurement help you in handling this issue, how a city is better managing and so on. So it's extremely important that you look at any priority sector as an entry point to the system. Now, an important element that we have today is COVID. But what is COVID? What is this pandemic that we have other than just an issue of our unsustainable lifestyle? We created it by our unsustainable consumption production patterns. So COVID is not over. Others are coming if we don't learn from that and change our habits and get to the system properly. But the big problem is when we talk about all these issues, sustainability, SCP, and so on, we tend to neglect what are, from my perspective, the two most important stakeholders, the municipalities and the small and medium enterprises. Why they are out of scope? Because there are too many and they are too small. So we prefer dealing with big companies and with the government, while at the end of the day, the ones who make the change are the municipalities, That's where the consumption patterns happen. And the small and medium enterprises, because that's where the process of production happens to feed in the big companies. But they are not so much of big interest to the companies. Even in the UN system, we give them 1 hour in the morning to have in the Mage group some consultation, but they don't have any decision power. So for me, these are what I call the unseen champions, where you get the startups, where we get the right innovation, where the youth have a role to play, where the young entrepreneurs have an extremely important to play in order to deliver this change. So it's no longer just looking at it top down, which is the current system, but look at it bottom up. The youth with their ideas go up to the system, the micro and small enterprises go up to the system. Very briefly, what we're doing in Switch Asia. 3 components. Mushtaq is in the regional policy advocacy component. I'm in the SCP facility. And we have a series of grant projects which represent most of the funding, or more than 90% of the funding of Switch Asia. We have had almost 130 projects, 35 are ongoing. And all of them, or let us say most of them, work on innovation. They come with new ideas, and we try to pilot them at the local level. And hopefully for some of them, we have been able to take them up. So I'm not going to go into the details here. Selected just 4 clusters, there are much more than that. And you see where those grant projects are focusing on and what can be learned from there in order to scale up and scale up the innovation. Building the capacity of micro, small, and medium enterprises, how to work with the market, how to innovate, how to work on resource efficiency, how to work on innovation. Sometimes they just need a small push to move further. When you look in the textile sector, so much is happening now, talk, greenwashing, but a lot can be done if you look at the energy practices in the manufacturing sector. If you look at the technical and financial services to be provided to those textile industries, and of course the labeling system. Same applies to the waste management and plastic reduction and sustainable housing. So many opportunities there, where I highlighted here a few of the key words on which we are working that could be driving an innovation, that could be ideas for startups, for which this Switch Asia program provided a context, a pilot, a demonstration that others can take over. But of course, these projects also learn from what other startups have been doing in certain countries to effectively develop this project, which is funded by the EU. Now, let me give you a couple of last 2 slides. An idea of this issue on plastic, on how we approach the issue. You probably have seen a movie on that. I call it the bad, the ugly, and the good. If you go around, you have it in Bangkok and in many cities in Asia, happening a lot in India. We want to ban plastic. We want to ban single-use plastic. Sorry, this is not a good idea at all, because this is politics. This is greenwashing. In plastic, there are good things. Plastics made a revolution. We cannot live without plastic. But what plastic are we talking about? There are bad plastic. Yes, these ones, let us get rid of them. Let us ban them. But what are we? Let us be clear on what we are talking about. There are ugly ones, the ones that are polluting. Let us better manage them. Let us make sure that they don't go to the sea. Let us make good business out of that. Let us change the behavior of the people. And anything that we are doing on innovation and startup need to ask those questions. What is good that we need to maintain and scale up? What is ugly that we need to improve? And what is bad, how in order to get rid of it? So all of us, we definitely we want changes. No one will tell you, I don't want changes, but it stops there. When it comes to make the change, how you drive the change, the entry points are different, how we handle it is different, and this is the most challenging, how to make the people more responsible and to be the change. And definitely the ones who can be the capital change are the youth and the small entrepreneurs. That are the ones who can really lead us and to move further. So it's absolutely essential when switching to sustainable consumption production, we look at the enabling process that will take us to create properly an impact. Thank you very much. Let us switch to. Oh, I'll take it.
Thank you very much, Arab. And so now I think the participants already have great ideas where to look for the money, whether it be the Switch grants, whether it be Health Award or the UNEP Sustainable Lifestyle startups and so on. But now let's move to learn from the real startups. So it helps. So now for that round, first let me invite Ms. Sutansi Surapset, and we call the Kunmo. So to introduce us her work, and we learn first from her. So over to Kunmo, please.
I would like to take this opportunity as a chance for me to share with you about our journey throughout the past 10 months, that we have been doing Happy Courses. And yeah, we kind of like, I decided to summarize everything into just 2 words, which is adaptability and movement. And let's first of all start with adaptability. So a little bit of the background information. Happy Courses is a startup based in Bangkok, where we source organic produces from fruit and vegetable directly from the farm, from Phayao to Panmuri and Nakhon Pathom mostly. And then we kind of find a fun way to deliver that to our customer, either through home delivery or grocery truck. And yeah, what we try to do is basically to create a movement of conscious consumers that would also kind of influence the way our farmers do agriculture to be more of organic. So yeah, let's start from the first keyword of our presentation today, which is adaptability. So I would like to start with the pre-story of how everything all started. So 10 months ago, I was actually working in tourism. And as you know, tourism got hit really hard by the COVID. And I think it was only 1 or 2 days before I launched my trip. And then there were like announcements that there would be lockdowns in the areas that I was living in. So then just like, okay, I cannot do this anymore because of the lockdown and everything. So what I did back then was that I was just like scrolling down my Facebook, trying to just find something more interesting, fun to do, because I was actually like hurt and bored a little bit. So myself, I did an internship with MIT in the northeastern part of Thailand at the farm before. So I have friends on Facebook that are farmers, and people started to complain that they could not distribute their produces because of the lockdown. And at the same time, because when I was in university, I did a lot of NGO work. I have friends who are expats based in Bangkok started to complain that they cannot find produces that have no plastic packaging and is directly from the farm. So back then it was just like, okay, now that I have nothing to lose, I need to do something with that, because I know where the source is and also where the demand is. So I just started with one Facebook post saying that anybody who wants some produces, just hit me up, I can deliver it to your house. And what happened was I got 20 requests of order to deliver to their houses in just like one night. So that was like, okay, cool, this is great. But then what happened was that I had no plan of how to deliver that to people. So what I did back then was like, I tried to call friends from uni, trying to ask for advice on what to do. And then I thought of my friend, who is my co-founder right now, because she got a car and she was really good at driving. It's like, hey, Pearl, so I have this thing. How do I do this? Should I send it from the South? Because I was in the South back then. And then she was like, dude, it's not gonna work. You need to deliver from Bangkok, because all the fruit and vegetable are distributed from Bangkok anyway. So transporting from the South, meaning that you transport food from Bangkok to the South and then back to Bangkok again. So what she did back then was that she just decided to help deliver everything, help get everything and then sort it out. it worked out pretty well, and we kept having more orders. So she was like, Mo, you need to be in Bangkok to do this. Otherwise, I'm not going to do this alone. So I decided to come to Bangkok. And then we started to use her parents' garage in the picture. So that was like a super small space where we would do packing, where I put our stuff in. And yeah, and we had been using that for about 9 months. And that was a really good start for us, at least in my opinion, because it started from just 2 friends, 1 garage, and then 0 baht, because we started from the model of pre-order, so we don't have to investing upfront. So that's how Happy Grocer started in that space for the past 9 months. We started to do things by ourselves, from like packing, getting order to deliver things by ourselves. That's a picture of me delivering things by my scooter in Bangkok. But because we started because of the COVID, and our business become validated because of that situation, once the city lockdown was over, people started to go out more. Our sale just dropped drastically. So we just like, okay, what do we do now that people want real experience? People want to go outside. We want to meet new people, or like just meet their neighbors and stuff. It's like, okay, maybe we can try to deliver that shopping experience to their condos, to their houses, to their offices. So we came up with the model of the grocery truck, where we still keep the same concept of delivering directly to our consumers, but then with the whole experience of like where our customer can pick things by hand, can ask us where things are from, can also ensure that everything is certified because we have all certification for everything. And it worked really well, because based on like the feedback that we got, people really love it, with the fact that they can go out, they can still do shopping, get whatever they need right in front of their door. And sometimes people would bring their kids to come learn about how to say things in different languages and how to count things as well, which is pretty lovely. So that this initiative also started to create a community around our brand as well, where people who have never had a chance to meet their neighbor also started to meet their neighbors and started to do things together because of the truck as well. But with all of these beautiful things that are happening, there are also times that we struggle as well. So that is a picture of my co-founder during the day that it was raining in Bangkok. And you know, when Bangkok rains, it floods. But still, we also have to keep making that happen, where we need to still keep delivering because we know that our customers need food. I think what we have learned in a hard way from doing things by ourselves, not only to understand the role of each part of the operation, but also to understand the life of the people who work in Bangkok, that we would never have a chance if we do other jobs, I think. And I think it creates more empathy for us to understand more about the lives of people in Bangkok as well, who have to struggle every day to like work, although it's floods, or have to work because they need to make money day by day. But I think I take this as a beautiful lesson as well. But there's also a turning point to our business where, because Happy Grocer started us just like a delivery company where we deliver just the general grades, like no certification. But then there was one point where we got to know one company that promised us that everything is organic, we can get anything, just to find out later that that was a lie. So that was like a big awakening for us of, oh, actually in this business it's really tricky, and maybe it's have to be us who go to the farm ourselves, who have to source things by ourselves, just to be sure that everything is really organic and really reliable. So then once we have that idea, we just like, okay, we cannot work this company anymore, we're just gonna do it ourselves. We just went to the farm in Suphanburi and started to talk to farmers by ourselves, started to spend time, build trust, and just basically spend time there to make them feel like we are not here to take advantage of. We really are here to grow together with the community. So that's the picture of Pearl and Dil, which is my colleagues in Suphanburi and Pidang. So yeah, and okay, let's move on to the second one that I think is also another step of happy courses as well, which is creating a movement. So we spend a lot of time thinking about how we have a passion for supporting Thai farmers, for creating a sustainable food system. Now that we learn more and more as we started happy courses, we just asked ourselves a lot of questions about how can such a small business be in the market while we don't have that much resources, where we don't have that much human resources either. So then we just keep asking ourselves more and more, and just to learn that, oh, maybe it's really important to create something that nobody can take away from us, which is a movement. So after we came to that conclusion of creating a movement, maybe is something that makes us really unique and something that only us can do in our way, we started to kind of explore the idea of how do we promote people to use more of the local ingredients so that they don't have to like rely on import goods that create lots of carbon footprint, and also able to support local farmers as well. And what would be some of the activities that would really enable our consumers to build connections, build relationships, get to know our brand, and get to be a part of the community. So the first activity that we started alongside our services of delivery and truck is the food workshop. Here is a picture of my friends and my mom. So we would have our parents coming from the north and the south and sharing how to cook super authentic vegetarian food or non-vegetarian as well, and then just share that with our customers. So that's like our first activity that we started to do to create this community around happy courses. The second thing that we also do is to create the experience where customers can have an opportunity to connect more to the producers of the food. So we would bring our customers to the farm and learn about what organic farming actually means, what it takes to do planting, how does compost work, and also the stories around the community that produce our food as well. So this is a picture of Hoi Hin Nam community. It's a Korean community where they have such a rich culture. And something that really fascinates me is the fact that their lives is really intertwined with the forest. So everything that they do is really driven by the belief that the forest has a goddess or the guardians of each tree. And in order to be respectful of the nature, we have to not use chemicals. So this belief really drives sustainability and the way they do agriculture in this community, because they believe that, well, if they use chemicals, they use pesticide, that's gonna be disrespectful for the nature. And I think, for me as a person, I feel like that's such an innovative and not innovative approach at the same time. But that's something that we try to overlook, which is like old indigenous beliefs that really drives innovation in the past. So yeah, the reason that we bring people to this community is to also see different ways to look at sustainability as well, because it's going to be totally different from how we see it in Bangkok. And also, if you can remember the first picture from the first keyword, which is adaptability, was the garage, right? And now after 10 months, we moved to this house. Woo, finally not in garage anymore. So once we moved to the house, we just thought that, oh, this could be such a cool space for us to create a community in this space, a community where people come together, meet like-minded people, and also learn more about sustainability, or even have their own project and use our space. So this picture is from last Friday, where we just invited all of the supporters from like day one to come and just build more relationship, create some good memories together. And yeah, we just like kind of look back at what we have done and how far we have become. And also, yeah, after 9 months, no, 10 months now, after 10 months, like all these activities and the services that we do really prove to us that what we do is not just selling and buying solely, but it's also like a movement where we try to create or an easy access to sustainable producers that enable people to have sustainable lifestyle. And because people really believe in our vision, we started to create a little community in Bangkok where conscious consumer come together, support farmers, and at the same time would be able to live life sustainably because they have access to sustainable source of food. Yeah, this is my favorite picture. So after 10 months, we have been serving over 200 families in 32 locations in Bangkok and have been working with over 60 farmers. And yeah, all of this would start from just 3 friends who are young and passionate about the environment and also the well-being of farmers. And we are basically a mix of like entrepreneurship and also expertise about the environment and soils. And yeah, so what we really believe in is to be a startup that would create a sustainable food system in Thailand by supporting small farmers and also use education as a tool for consumers to be informed about how to make wise choices in the way they consume. And I really believe that we all, as an individual, we can really make a difference through our consumption choices. If you want to learn about happy grocers, you can just scan this QR code. It's going to link to our Facebook. And if you have any questions or if you want to get involved in our business or collaborate, just please feel free to shoot me some message in the box or even like on Facebook. So yeah, thank you so much everybody for having me. And I guess that's it for me.
Thank you. Thank you, Kunmo. Very interesting and very energetic. I would say that the way we use the phrase win-win situation, this is a happy situation that you are creating. And this is the best example of a social enterprise that is starting with your like next person and then scaling up. So creating happy producers, happy customers, happy founders. So it's all about happiness, sharing the happiness. Thank you very much. So now let's move to China. And our colleague, Ms. Kai Kai Young, will be enlightening us that how she's dealing with the most difficult plastics in the world. So Ms. Kai Kai Young, floor is yours, please.
Hi everyone, I'm Kai Kai from Dipotech. So today I'm going to present what we're doing from energy side and help everyone can contribute to a sustainability, low carbon lifestyle. Okay, so my topic is about like a presumed era of future energy. So I'm the co-founder and also CEO from Dipotech. So Dipotech is an energy service company based in Shanghai, but we target the whole Southeast Asian countries, especially in Philippines and Thailand, to enable a better energy service, including electricity retailer and demand side response, virtual power plants, and even we help people to use not only produce and also use the renewables from the solar. So essentially, firstly, we want to make every like a use of every watt of electricity. And secondly, we build a trusted energy trading platform to enable everyone can not only be a producer and also a prosumer, the producer and the consumer. And third, after all these steps, we want to build a gateway for everyone can have a sharing economy in low carbon lifestyle. So the situation now we are faced with in the whole environment issue, like there's no planet B, and we are faced with a lot of big fires in Australia and also Western United States. And every year it's getting hotter and hotter. And this year it will be the less hotter year in next decade. So we have to do something, not only saying we want to be sustainable, and also I think from the action side, we should do something. So have a quick like a background. So currently by the end of 2020, the onshore wind and solar PV will be less expensive source of new electricity, which means if you're using solar from your rooftop, you are using not only a greener electricity and also a cheaper electricity. So now we have the rooftop, the solar, the renewables, and also we have more energy storage who can help us to store the excess electricity. And also we can have, now we have more and more emerging markets for the electrical vehicles. So the next question is like, every household and the factories, once they install the solar panels on top of their rooftop, they can use it and they can consume it. So what if they have excess electricity from the solar? So we think everyone, and not only the individual person and also the factories, whoever you are, if you have the rooftop, you can be a virtual plant, which means you can not only use and also consume solars. So what's our solution? So we offer a distributed energy resource trading platform. So for example, that's the whole diagram, how it works. For example, Jack used 1,000 kilowatts hour electricity this month, but Rose also in the same community, Rose produced 800 kilowatts and shared with Jack for the solar energy. And Jack, once Jack buy the credits, Jack will get another 800 kilowatt hour for his renewables credits. And at the end of that month, Jack will receive a integrated billing from the utility saying Jack will be only billed for another 200 kilowatt electricity instead of 1,000 kilowatt hour, which means everyone cannot, even you don't have your rooftop or you don't want to invest solar power, you still can subscribe the renewables from the others in the community. Anyone can benefit from using the solar. So that is a virtual net metering platform built from us. And currently we are building this platform in Bangkok in a local community. So we also, for this project, we also get shortlisted in the Thailand Energy Regulation Council Energy Innovation Sandbox last year. So the whole sandbox will be lasted for 1 year to next year. So essentially we want to enable more people, regardless of rooftop or the upfront cost, the investment from to invest the renewable. Everyone can get benefits from the renewables. And this is our product. We built the whole product line from the industrial or the solar generation. They will have their dashboard. So we built a aggregate marketplace for different energy generation for their resources into that marketplace. And for the end user, the individual user, they can also easily download our application on the App Store, like Google Play. And then, they can connect with their smart meter to see how much electricity they have used monthly. And also on our application, they can subscribe the renewables from different users within this community. So essentially, we want to enable like more people to use renewables, because currently the whole challenge is about like the weather and also the whole issue about the sustainability. So let's leave the fossil fuels on the ground and just use the renewables as much as we can. And yeah, because I only have 5 minutes, so let's leave my I'll leave my contact. So if you have any question, or if you want to really use our application or our product, you can also leave the message from to my email. Then we can send you a quick demo to demonstrate how it works. So thanks for having me today, and I will be appreciate to have more like a communication and conversation afterwards. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you, Kai Kai Young, for enlightening us on the renewable energy side of sustainable lifestyles and how to create a shared economy around the renewable energy. And my apology for plastic. So now we have plastics in focus, and Ms. Len Le, and maybe I can also request her to share some of the major challenges that the startups can learn from each other. So floor is yours, Ms. Len Le.
Hi everyone, my name is Ling. I'm the founder of Ayaka. And what we do is that we want to cut single-use plastic for takeaway and home delivery. And the way we do it is to put reusable cups at coffee shop and restaurants, so people can use them and exchange to different locations. So I'm gonna share with you my slide. Oops. Where is it? Number 1. Yeah, so I did that. So the reason we wanted to do it because Vietnam is the top 5 country polluting the ocean the most, and we really want to remove Vietnam out of this map as much as we can. And to sort of give a background on why we decided to focus on consumer, we look at a bigger picture is what is the linear system right now for single-use packaging, and where can we tackle within our ability, our own ability, because we have the government who are very busy doing something else, and we have to map out all the stakeholders, like other speaker before me mentioned. So we map out the whole supply chain, and we see that this is such an intensive and tiring, exhausting supply chain management, a supply chain from taking fossil fuel materials and produce them, then go to different wholesales, then retailers, then go to cafe or coffee shops and restaurants, and everything that we did before to reach to end consumer as like us, we use it for only 12 minutes and then we throw them away. And then the story has not stopped there. All of that collecting, sorting, transport them to a waste area, and then hopefully we can recycling some plastic, and so far in the whole since plastic has been introduced in 1960, we've been only converting 10% of single-use plastic. So I realized that it's just such an intensive process, and everything we did is to serve our consumer, which is us, for 12 minutes, and then it's been thrown away. So this is a waste for us. And what interesting thing is that at the beginning of the supply chains, before we use, then all these profits go to stakeholders like the manufacturers, the plastics manufacturers. But then when we have to clean all the waste, we use the money from the public funds. And there's no profit actually come from, or very little profit come from that at the end. Yeah. And so we was thinking how we can just solve the problem. And the best thing what we see is to solve from the consumer, how we can make products used for many times before it can be great to upscale or downscale. Sorry, upcycle or downcycle. And the best way is to work within our own consumer, create a lifestyle, so that we don't have to we don't have to generate more waste. So what we did is that, like I mentioned before, we put reusable cup at coffee shop and restaurant. And for this time, after we use it and we've been testing the market for over a year, we decide to work now focusedly on more of a closed environment such as school and university. And we put cups at shop A, people use them, then we can return them at shop B within the campus. And one cups that we produce can be used for up to 500 times. We can also trace that transactions based on an app that allow people to borrow and return within our system. So besides just creating that circle of reusable packaging, we also think about the whole supply chains that we wanted to do. So we try to design waste out throughout our supply chain, and we use materials such as the cups. Actually, this one is made from cassava starch and with a mix with polyethylene PP, and we produce them actually in Vietnam. The cost is much higher than normal plastic produced in the mass productions. It's actually 5 times more expensive, but we committed to make sure that the supply chain is as low CO2 emission as possible. Then it goes straight to our warehouse, and from our warehouse we put directly to location A and B within our network, so that all the costs for the cup will be reduced, and the cups keep using in that loop. So this is our current supply chain. So yes, so this idea is been inspired by the circular economy by Anne MacArthur. Especially, we have the right on the right side is the return on the go, and focus on university and events. So this is some examples, some features of our cups. And this is one of our example. We have this case is in front of a university, not inside a university, international university. And so what we did is that we put our cups there, and we didn't have any app at that time, so we use only cash. So every time that you wanted to take our cups, you need to return. You need to give us about $2, and when you return, you get that $2 back. I thought that it was pretty manual, and it's quite hard to track. When we hope that in our app coming soon, we can solve that problem. And on the right side, you have all these, some message from the students or the teachers say that they want to have coffee to deliver to their shops. So we also did another example at a music festival in the south of Vietnam. It's called Episode. There was 15,000 attendees, and they asked us to produce 7,000 cups, and it's been serving about 44,000 drinks within that was 12 days of music festivals. So we saved up to 44,000 single-use cups within only one event, and we saw that it is such an amazing opportunity to reduce single-use plastic while also making profit for our company. And we went all into event by end of 2019, and then COVID hit basically, and we had to stop with events, and then we went to pivot our business to go to universities. So it was pretty rough year for us, especially with COVID. So that should be it for our presentation. Oh, one thing we learned during our our research is that every time that you use any reusable cups, you save up to 70 grams of CO2 compared to using single-use plastic. And with a normal tree, the tree can absorb only 75 grams of CO2. So if you keep reusing your cups or your food container, you actually save more CO2 than a normal tree. So keep reusing. Thanks so much for your time. And
thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Lynn. And that's very, I think, informative and inspiring that how at least we can start looking for the green schools, green universities, green events, and
yes.
by taking those small startups, making our world much more environmental friendly. So now, without further ado, last but not the least, we are glad to have Professor Dieter Tro. He is Director of Asian Institute of Technology Entrepreneurship Center. And with him, we are also collaborating on preparing a toolkit for the green startups. And so let me invite Professor Dieter Tro for the presentation, please.
Yeah, hello. Yeah, good afternoon, everybody. And so I'm very happy that the Entrepreneurship Center here at AIT, from where I'm speaking now, can co-organize this event with Switch Asia. So today I want to talk about two topics. First, I want to quickly introduce the Entrepreneurship Center. And second, I want to give you some example on the circular economy that we are doing here at AIT on the campus. Okay, so the Asian Institute of Technology was founded in 1959, and actually it was founded for capacity building in Asia Pacific. And even before the Sustainable Development Goals were defined by the United Nations, actually AIT did already this type of work. And so we are a postgraduate university only. And so we have a very rigorous program, and we are very proud of our alumni. We have produced more than 25,000 alumni, and they are all over Asia. And so they became very successful in businesses as academics, and many of them, they work in high positions in the government. So we are located here north of Bangkok on a very nice green campus. We have banned motorbikes on the campus, so it's very silent and nice, and we have a lot of wildlife. Okay, so now I'm here speaking to you from the AIT Entrepreneurship Center. And so those are a few things that we want to achieve here. So the Entrepreneurship Center is rather new. It was founded last year. So I'm the founding director. And so we want to make it basically for a breeding ground here at AIT, but also in the region, to nurture future business leaders and innovation and, bringing technologies we have developed at AIT here at our labs, into use. Also, we are supporting in general, the slogan of AIT is social impact with innovation. And so this is also what we are supporting here from the Entrepreneurship Center. Also, it's a learning center. So we have different type of events, and I will show them to you later, which are going on. And we have also organized certain courses on entrepreneurship for our students. And we want to be inclusive. So an inclusive center means we are reaching out to enterprises, and under enterprises, it's also government organizations, nonprofit organizations, and so on, and to the industry, and to involve our alumni in our activities. So that's our mission and our vision, to drive AIT's entrepreneurial ecosystem by supporting our students and their projects, faculty and alumni, with the partnership of industry, to, again, the slogan of AIT, to achieve social impact with innovation. And on the long run, we want to become a respected regional hub, for entrepreneurship and, to drive the socio-economic development of Thailand, but also of the region, because 70% of our students actually are not from Thailand, and they are from the region. So here at the Entrepreneurship Center, we have different physical facilities. I'm here sitting now in the creator space. So it's a multi-purpose space to meet people and to hold events. We also have a maker space. That's to build prototypes with rapid prototyping machines to create some tangible outcome. We have a support space with some of our staff to help in projects. And in the future, in the very near future, we want to have an incubator space where we can incubate our projects and maybe, create some startup companies. So those are some of the key activities we are doing. Frequently, we have our expert talks, and now almost all of those events, they are in hybrid mode, as we do this event also in hybrid mode now. We have workshops of different type, for example, product design. We have pitching competitions on different business competitions and so on. Then we have our most prestigious event, the Distinguished Entrepreneur Talk. It's only quarterly, where we have invited a very famous people which build, often from scratch, large companies. And so this is very well received. We also have our sustainability hackathon organized by AIT. So those events typically go over 2 days, almost non-stop, with a couple of student groups, and they hack out a certain problem. And at the end, present their often interesting, new and disruptive solutions. We also help other organizations to do their event. One example is the HALT Prize. We had now for 2 times the HALT Prize on Campus event here at AIT. So we also are a center for learning for our own students, but also we organize some courses for alumni. And we are starting now an incubation program, mainly for our students, but also for faculty or teams. In the ideal case, teams from faculty and students. And we have some type of study tours to maybe companies or exhibitions. So those are our, key events that we are doing. And now let me give you some examples, what's happening on the campus here on a circular economy. And so these examples, 3 of them, they are aiming for zero plastic waste and elimination of food waste and a metal waste. Okay, so this is one of our examples here, zero food waste project. We have built special facilities to decompose and these food waste, and with very specific microbes. They work in an anaerobic environment, and they are creating biogas, methane. And of course, so the methane can be used as a cooking gas. Technically, it could be also used in vehicles. But it's important, of course, to really burn the methane and not release it in the atmosphere. As you know, methane is a strong greenhouse gas. And if we burn it, okay, we get carbon dioxide, which is also a greenhouse gas, but less effective. But remember, so these food waste mainly came from plants. So it's also circular. The carbon dioxide came actually from plants. So any solids remaining from this, they could be used for landfills or for other things. So another project here, which aims to zero metal waste, in this case aluminium, and there are a lot of aluminum cans consumed, 1.46 billion aluminum drinks per year. And, you know, to make aluminum, it's a very energy intensive process, you know, and if we make a new can from a recycled old can, because the aluminum is already there as a metal, it needs much less energy, only 5%. So how we do this? We have developed some interesting can crusher. Maybe I show you here the real thing on this picture. So this can crusher is basically a type of a robot. It can interact with the user, and it does two things. It crushes the can to reduce dramatically the volume, but it can also detect if a metal can goes in or a plastic bottle. And it will also segregate these two materials from each other. So both of these materials, of course, can take then different routes and can be used and recycled. And so the metal can goes back to make new cans or make other products from aluminum. And the plastic can actually go into the next process, which I want to show you. So what we actually can do with plastic, we can shredder it to small particles, and we can use it to build bricks. So from plastic bottles to bricks. On my screen is still something in the middle, which is blocking what you should see now, because, but I can just explain it to you. Actually, what we do is we shredder the plastic can and we mix it with concrete and with sand and other materials to make bricks. And those bricks, they are done. It's more than a brick, because a brick has a very particular shape. It's an interlocking brick. And we have developed this technology here at AIT and with a startup called Habitech. And on this picture, you see, you know, we have here a lot of facilities from our civil engineering department to test the strength of these bricks, to test all the properties. And this is a picture here, how you see these interlocking bricks. And there we are actually used to construct our AIT International School. So this technology can be used to build buildings up to 3 stories. And because you see some spaces and some holes in these bricks, they will be, depending on where they are in the building, they will be connected with a rebar steel. And those buildings are actually earthquake safe. And we have a lot of experience in this field of earthquakes. And now this technology was used already to build our own buildings on the campus, but to build a larger number of schools all around in Southeast Asia, and I think hundreds of buildings already. Okay, so this is another student project on fruit. This one I don't know. So, okay, thank you very much. I think I'm already over my time. Please have a look to our website, and if you have any more questions, please contact us at this email, entrepreneurship@ait.ac.th. Thank you, and best greetings from AIT.
Activities AIT is conducting and how much investments in terms of intellectual investments they are making in. And so, dear participants, everyone, and I think there's a lot of information within 90 minutes. So we have a substance information, we have a networking information, we have a new opportunities for the grants and awards and so on. So now we may run 10 minutes over the time with all permission from you, so we can cover at least few important questions. So we will go with the round of the questions. so the distinguished speakers can pick up some of the questions and some they may reply later on. So we go one by one. So first we will see the screen, the questions on the screen. So first is the questions for Ms. Nelly. And though I'm very sorry, she's in Mexico very late in the night. So floor is yours, Nelly. You can pick the questions, or you can combine, and then you have like a 3 minutes at most to reply back, please. Thank you. Okay, sorry. So let's move quickly to the next distinguished speaker then. So we will have the questions on the screen again. Okay, so here are the questions. So may I request Arab to please come here?
Speak from here?
Yeah.
Okay. Listen to me. I shout enough when you stay there.
Yeah.
They will see your face. For the first question, my municipalities and SMEs are out of scope. In fact, I included in my slide, but I explain much more. It's simply there are too many to be really considered in the international negotiations. And even in a country, they don't have a proper overall representation that can speak with governments. So they need to be better organized in their network and to be much stronger. Even if you have a federation of small and medium enterprises, most of the time they are not well organized and strong enough to be able to face government, to go to a bank and to start there. So they need to be better organized, more united, have a stronger, consistent position, to be strong, to be better understood and well undertaking their activities. So we cannot do it without them, but unfortunately we don't listen enough to them. And when they are developing policies and when they are looking at banking system, they hardly consider what municipalities and small and medium enterprises want or how they can access to that. They basically look at the big ones to have the capacity to move further. On the other issue for creative communities to strive at the most challenging issue for startups, academia, careership, of course, first of all, is to have the right enabling capacity to be able to create, to innovate, and then to take your project to a next level, which means approaching the policy wherever necessary and approaching the banking system as well as the industry. The other issue, the challenge is to get out from your, I would say, comfort zone of small work and side of thinking and discuss with others. It's always very difficult, easy to say, but extremely difficult to work in partnership, to find the right mechanism to partner with others for a win-win solution. And not everybody is ready for that, ready for trade-offs and so on. And the third one is really to consider the value chain on the issue on which you are working, what is before, what is after, and how you can effectively consider all those issues when you will be starting something in terms of academia, thinking about it, and shifting career, because this is important if you know what is before, what is after, while what you are doing currently. If Mushtaq want to add to that from you.
Yeah, thank you very much. So now let's say I'll come back to at the end from UNEP side. So let's move to the next speaker, the questions. Okay, so Suthasini Kunmo, the question for you.
Okay, so wait, let me understand this question a little bit. I mean, like, okay, so to my knowledge, what Impact is doing is basically to be a space for people to come and kind of start initiatives for social impact, right? I would like to explore that opportunities, but actually, like, if you can remember a picture of the house that we are living in right now, that is our headquarters. Our vision for that house is actually to also become like a little space for people to try out the startup or organize events, organize workshop, because we really understand how difficult it would be for startups that are really early to find space like that to do something. So yeah, so in that sense, yes, because we really would love to be that like community where people come and create things together, especially initiatives that are creating for the purpose of sustainability and circular economy.
Thank you. Sir. So thank you very much for the question answer session. So just before the closing, let me also make an announcement in a way that as the United Nations Environment Program is implementing the startups program for last 3 years. And so we will be having another round next year on the sustainable lifestyles startups. And also, we will be now starting to have a toolkit for helping the startups to look for the green products and services. So we call the green startups or greening the startups if they are the conventional startups already. And then also we will be organizing the investors forum next year, and that will also continue every year. So please look forward to our new round for the startups and also the toolkit and also this investors forum. And then we are going to have quite many partnerships, as we already saw. So under the Asia, then under the HALT, Ait Entrepreneurship Center, Massive Earth Foundation, then also the private sector like Mitsui and so on. So please stay connected with this. And at that note, I would like to thank everyone, all the participants, EU for generous support on the Asia program, UNEP colleagues, AIT colleagues, and also all the participants, but this is just a beginning. So next year, we may see that most of you coming up with new startups. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Excuse me, I have a few questions if I can ask.
Yeah. And we will have a photo also, so please stay tuned. We will ask everyone to turn on the video there. Yeah. Question? Yes, please.
Yeah, so my question is, the general fail rate of startups is 97%. So according to you, will being circular and sustainable increase or decrease this percentage? And if it decreases, what role the policies will play to make this happen in this process?
Okay, so it really depends how we calculate this success rate, because if we look, let's say, on the Dr. Yunus, like Grameen Bank and all these things, where they were not really a big support from policy side, but it starts from their own initiatives. So as the circular economy or environment is one of the important social good. And so when we are talking about these startups in the context of social enterprise, I see very high success rates based on that, including microfinance and so on, or including Orangi pilot project in Pakistan. So it really depends how we see that startups, but also as we saw that, suppose IACUP, our UNEP startup in Vietnam, you just heard that they had major challenges, then COVID issues, and then it's better to go with the close environments like schools or universities. So how we create the resilience also within the startups that this impacts, like whether be the COVID type of pandemic impacts, whether be the financial crunches, or whether be any change in the policies may not really affect, rather help them. So that's also, I think, learning or cross-fertilization, but we'll be very happy to have those failures or lessons learned so we can increase the success rate. Thank you. So can we have now photo? If everyone can turn on their video camera, please.
I'm sorry to disturb, sir. I have one more question, if it's okay.
Yeah, sure. Shoot. Or first, let's have a photo. If you don't mind, I'll come back to you because maybe some participants drop out. So I want to capture most of the participants on camera. So please, let's have a photo first.
My question was, how will an entrepreneur be aware of the importance of circular economy and importance of sustainability when they already start a company or when they're trying to build a business? So how do they get this awareness of these both things?
Okay. If I understood correctly, it has two ways. One is if the company is already running, suppose whether it be in a transport sector, IT sector, energy sector, whatever, food sector. And if the entrepreneur wants to move that to the circular economy or trying to make that startup green startup, let's put in that way. So that is where we have to look on the processes like a value chain, the business models like a shared business we talk about, then the selling the product as a service, for example, and so on, or the reverse logistics system for collecting back the end-of-life products and so on. So one is that really you have additional maybe the segments in the chain when you are providing that service or product through the current one. And as we are discussing that how to find the opportunities in the new businesses under the circular economy, that's, I think, much easier now because we have already seen the shift like to the renewable energy, for example. However, renewable energy like solar energy may not be in a way the full greater good unless we know the life cycle of even the solar panels. So if the business model is designed to create the solar panels, which are from the responsible like sourcing and how they are consumed and how the e-waste or the end-of-life solar panels are recycled and so on. So if we look on that model, that's much easier. Same with the plastics, for example, that we are talking about the plastics products. So whether be instead of single use like straws, if we are replacing to the multiple use straws with a solid like good plastics or PP, and then we can see that how those are produced, how those are being consumed, how those are being collected back or take back systems and so on. And taking the advantage of IT, modern technologies, it's becoming much easier, like take back systems, now QR codes. So if you want to dispose of your products, whether it be the plastic products or energy and so on, you just scan the QR code and then collection system can be made available and so on. So with this digital technologies or Internet of the Things also, that also provides a lot of consumer data to you, that what type of consumers are there, why they like this type of choices, and how you can improve the awareness to influence their choices as well, because at the end of the day, it's all about the quality of life, that people want to enjoy the life, they have a safe life and so on. So if the safe transport models are more of a public transport and more of cycling and so on, or healthier, the consumers will move on that. But you have to work, like now the ownership of cars in many countries is reducing because young consumers, they want to spend more time on their mobile phones or working on while moving from one place to other place. So you have to have a proper market search. But the last thing, which is the most important, and the first thing is that how you analyze the problem and how you respond timely for that. Thank you. Okay, so if no more questions, then again, let me thank everyone here in the room. So wishing you all the Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, Happy Holidays. Thank you very much. Bye.